A summer sun, a narrow street. One woman begins to sway, then stamp, then whirl, unable to stop. By nightfall, more join her. Drums appear, days pass, feet bleed, bodies drop, and the city keeps dancing. Greetings, seekers of the strange. Welcome to Beyond Bizarre. I'm your host, taking you past normal, beyond weird, into the absolutely mind-blowing. Today we unravel how an entire 16th century city fell into a fever of motion, why officials tried to cure it with more dancing, and how a curse, hot blood, famine, and fear fused into the strangest public health crisis you've never believed was real. By the end, you'll know what sparked the frenzy, what made it spread, and why the town that danced itself to death is both legend and unnervingly close to the truth. It began in July 1518 in Strasbourg, then a free imperial city in the Holy Roman Empire. A woman remembered as Frau Trophäa stepped into the street and danced for days, reportedly collapsing only from exhaustion before rising to dance again. Within a week, dozens were at it. Within a month, hundreds were said to be convulsing through markets and alleys, glassy-eyed, feet raw and slick with blood. Witnesses didn't see a festival. They saw a plague without a pathogen. City leaders needed an explanation. The clergy warned of St. Vitus's vengeance, a curse forcing sinners to dance. But the city's physicians offered a medical fix from humoral theory: overheated blood. Their prescription? Let the sufferers dance it out. So carpenters and tanners were ordered to refit guild halls as dance floors. A stage rose in the horse and grain markets. Musicians were hired to keep the afflicted moving: fiddles, drums, pipes, horns. It was organized, official, relentless, and it backfired. The crowd swelled. The spectacle fed the panic. More bodies joined the rhythm. By late summer, authorities pivoted from medicine to miracle. The worst cases were hauled by cart to the shrine of St. Vitus at Saverne in the foothills. There, priests performed a ritual cure. The sufferers' feet were placed in red shoes, marked with consecrated crosses, anointed with holy oils amid incense and Latin prayers, an attempt to unmake a curse with ceremony. Reports say the stream of dancers slowed within weeks. The city's grim choreography finally lost the beat. So, what actually happened? First, the headline: somewhere between dozens and a few hundred people danced for weeks in Strasbourg that summer. The grisly claim that people danced themselves to death appears in later chronicles, and some accounts speak of daily fatalities. But contemporary city records don't list a firm death toll, and historians caution that numbers were likely exaggerated. The horror was real. The body count is uncertain. In other words, the town may not have literally tallied mass deaths from dancing, yet the suffering was undeniable. As for causes, one hypothesis long blamed ergot fungus, rye bread tainted with a natural compound similar to LSD. But ergotism constricts blood vessels and triggers agony and convulsions. It's a poor fit for people dancing continuously for days. The leading explanation today: mass psychogenic illness fueled by devastating stress, religious fear, and a culture primed to expect St. Vitus's curse. Strasbourg's poor had endured failed harvests, disease, and desperate piety. Belief and terror did the rest, spreading trance states like a social contagion. When officials built stages and piped in music, they didn't cure it. They amplified it. What makes Strasbourg 1518 so chilling isn't just the spectacle. It's how belief systems shaped both the disease and the cure. If you think a saint can force you to dance, and everyone around you thinks so too, your mind and body can obey that script. And if the city's best and brightest decide the treatment is to keep dancing, they write the next act. In a way, the entire town became a theater where fear played the orchestra and people's bodies kept time. Here's where it gets really interesting. This wasn't just a Strasbourg thing. Similar dancing epidemics had been recorded throughout the Holy Roman Empire for over a century before 1518. Each outbreak followed a similar pattern, starting with one or a few individuals, spreading through communities under stress, and eventually burning itself out when authorities intervened or the social conditions changed. The people of Strasbourg were primed for this kind of outbreak. They'd endured a series of catastrophic harvests, political instability, and the arrival of new diseases like syphilis. In an era when divine punishment was considered a real and immediate threat, the idea that Saint Vitus could curse people with uncontrollable dancing wasn't just believable, it was expected. But here's what's truly remarkable. The dancing plague reveals something fundamental about human psychology. Under extreme stress, our minds can essentially hijack our bodies. When an entire community shares the same fears and beliefs, those individual psychological responses can synchronize into mass behavior that defies rational explanation. The medical historian John Waller argues that the 1518 outbreak was essentially a stress-induced mass hysteria amplified by cultural beliefs. The people of Strasbourg weren't faking it. They genuinely couldn't control their movements. Their brains, overwhelmed by chronic stress and primed by religious fear, had essentially short-circuited. In the end, Strasbourg's dance burned itself out. Part ritual, part rumor, part raw human psychology under crushing stress. The phrase, "the town that danced itself to death," lingers because it feels true to the terror on those streets. The scorched feet, the flailing arms, the bodies dropping from exhaustion. But the deeper truth is stranger and more human. It wasn't a virus, it wasn't a toxin, it was us, our fears, our faith, our fragile minds under pressure, spiraling in sync until a city moved as one. The dancing plague of 1518 stands as one of history's most bizarre and unsettling episodes. A reminder that the line between individual psychology and collective madness can be frighteningly thin. In a world where shared beliefs can literally move us to act against our own interests, perhaps we're not so different from those medieval dancers after all. And that's another journey, beyond bizarre. If your mind is officially blown, smash that subscribe button because we're just getting started. Until next time, keep pushing beyond the ordinary.